Oh, right. Thank you. In this talk, I'm going to give an overview of the work, the modeling work that has performed by the PNL modeling team, including collaboration, certainly with broader Activate collaborators. So some of the work you've seen in previous meetings, but try to give a more complete picture since this is the last year. You will see some quick recap of some previous work. So you've seen this in Armin's overview presentation. So here is our measurements to models strategy for the project. We use the hierarchical modeling framework. What I really mean is including the framework, including large area simulations based on WRF and the cloud resolving model, but also based on WRF, and also the single column model based on the DOE energy exascale Earth system model, E3SM. So just to give use a schematic to show you what's the difference of those different components in this framework. So start with the cloud resolving model frame configuration because it covers much bigger area. So for the outer domain I'm showing here, it's over 1,500 kilometer size, and the inner domain nested inner domain is 450 kilometer. So for this, since this is your original model, you do need boundary conditions and surface conditions. So surface condition, including the interactive land and prescribed SST and albedo, and but the model does calculate surface fluxes. So the advantage of the nested cloud CRM is it can resolve big enough size clouds, and the mesoscale convective systems can provide more realistic meteorology and forcing from the outer domain. So then embedded LES, you can see here, it doesn't need to have the entire atmosphere column, but it has very high resolution. It can resolve most of the large eddies important for the clouds we're looking at, and also turbulent flows. But it can be heavily constrained by observations for certain process understanding. And then the single column model is illustrated here, occupy just one grid of the host GCM. It does need to take large scale forcing, like advective tendencies from horizontal and vertical. So literally just run it over one model grid. It's very computational efficient. It can be used to test the model physics and compare to other models and compare to LES and cloud CRM. So just try to use one example we have done to illustrate this, how the single column model and cloud resolving model and LES are compared and used to understand aerosol cloud interactions for Activate. So this is one of the cold air outbreak process study case on March 1st, 2020. It's one of the 12 process study cases. You can see that we had the two aircraft measurements, including the drop sound circle. And on the bottom left, showing the 8 in situ flight legs, we had measured aerosols clouds and used to constrain the model and evaluate the model. And just quick recap, we first started this case, used the WRF LES mainly to use to understand the aerosol cloud interactions in a pretty quick, fast evolving cold air outbreak marine boundary layer. So what does the model, we did lots of tests, and finally stick with one configuration. The model does need to take initial conditions and then the time varying forcing from reanalysis. And it was able to reproduce the marine boundary layer structure measured by the drop sounds. And and be used for our sensitivity experiments, mostly to perturb aerosol size distribution, chemical composition, based on the measured aerosol size distribution and other composition measurements. We'll try to look at the sensitivity of clouds to aerosol, which was the way we use to quantify the aerosol cloud interactions. The work was published in 2 papers listed here. Then the cloud resolving model was really used to just study the mesoscale cloud morphology and the organizations. Here, showing you an example of the cloud street observed during the activate. So it's a cold air outbreak case. So on the left, showing the model results. The top is 3 kilometer and bottom 1 kilometer, and right hand side is called the GOES 16 satellite, just to show you how well the model actually can capture the cloud rule structure. So we then use this to study the sensitivity of the rule structure characteristics of the cloud rules to surface condition, to different meteorological boundary conditions. We found there were some interesting findings documented in this paper led by Jingyi. And one thing I wanted to know that the idealized LES with prescribed large-scale forcing, we tried many ways, cannot produce similar cloud rule structures. Then comes to the single column model configuration. So the single column model is based on the E3SM model version 2. It has 100 kilometer model grid size. The initial and boundary condition and large scale forcing all from Aero 5 is almost try to keep the same as the LES simulation we did. And aerosol, it also takes aerosol size distributions, 3 modes in this case. The aerosol can be from the E3SM, 4 E3SM GCM simulations, or from the activate measurements as shown, illustrated and left panel figure here. But we could assume different composition, mostly try to change the hygroscopicity of those aerosol in the different mode to see sensitivities, model sensitivities in clouds and precipitation. In general, the results show pretty good comparison with observation and LES. And here to show some example, I will get back to this later to focus on the SEI quantified from the single column simulation. Just use a couple of slides to illustrate how we compare the different model configuration to observations to real analysis. Here showing that from top to bottom, you see the cloud fraction evolution of the one within the cold air outbreak case, one near half day. Top of single column model, and then the LES, cloud resolving, and Aero 5. So you see that they're, in general, they all capture the evolution, but they're quantitatively, there's quite a bit of difference. So for example, the cloud resolving model has a faster decrease in cloud fraction compared to all other. And only this model has the rule structure simulated in the simulation. But LES and Aero 5 has larger liquid water. We also compare the liquid water and ice water. LES and the Aero 5 obviously has more than other configurations. In the paper, we did look at, explore potential causes of those differences. So we also compare the thermodynamic profiles simulated in those different model configurations and compared to drop sound and also aircraft measurements. You can see that this key finding of this comparison is that in the boundary layer, Aero 5 is colder and drier than drop zone measurements, but it's more comparable to aircraft. You see that even the drop zones and aircraft, they don't quite agree with each other. Is no surprising because within this case, there's very strong spatial variability. So given that, the model difference, we wouldn't think that's a big problem for the single column model to show to study the SEI in this case. Then we also compare the cloud properties among the different model configurations and also to the cross signs showing from the satellite retrievals and the red dots showing from King Air HSRL retrievals. So it shows that the single column model and LES produce very similar cloud top heights. They are higher than the cloud resolving model results. But the LES has a larger total cloud liquid water path and precipitation than the other models, and also higher than what the GOES 16 retrievals show. So then just quickly look at show you the cloud sensitivity to the aerosol perturbations in the single column model simulation. So here the figures show the results of the CCN liquid water content, cloud drop number, and effective radius, showing the different varied aerosol size, number and size we took from different flight legs, use colors showing different flight legs. It shows that there's a pretty large impact on drop number and size, but the impact on liquid water content is pretty minimal. You almost cannot tell there's a difference between the simulations. When we change the aerosol composition and change the hygroscopicity fit into the model, it does show a quite big sensitivity in CCN, in cloud drop number, especially when we took the lowest kappa for all the models size mode. It shows a big difference in CCN cloud drop number concentration and effective radius. Then we just use the normal ACI metric to quantify the indirect effect. Here shows the D log ND to D log CCN based on the different perturbation tests of the single column model. You can see that there's a clear albedo ND susceptibility, but the liquid water path adjustment to ND change is very minimal, almost no change, flat. And however, this result is quite different from the previous work done by Xueqi, looking at 4 GCM results over the ARM ENA side and also from satellite retrievals. You can see that the magnitude for albedo for ND susceptibility, the magnitude is stronger, but for the liquid water path adjustment susceptibility, that effect is totally different. So satellite shows famous inverse V shape of the response, but the E3SM 4 GCM shows the V shape, but the single column, of course, they're not comparable. That's not the same case, but now we have run the single column model for the entire 3 years. We'll look more into the comparison of those single column model results to 4 GCM. Single column model results are highly constrained simulations to see purely the microphysical impact if those are comparable to satellite retrievals and the 4 GCM. So in the next few more slides, just to quickly summarize some new work. And Xiangyu also led LES study on the precipitating summer cumulus case. So he will show in his talk next, he will talk also about this case, but with a different microphysics. So the key findings in this is that the model has some difficulty capture the cloud depth and evolution. There's also a challenge from the even larger variation in the moisture you can see in the drop zones, moisture and wind fields. Even we tried Lagrangian forcing, just try to use the back trajectory to predict the location of the system, but didn't help much. And another interesting finding is about the liquid water content susceptibility, and it varies with height in the simulated cumulus case. It's in the literature, we usually just do calculate one single susceptibility based on the entire column average, but shows that there's quite a bit of variation in the vertical. And if you, I talked about this result based on the lab measurements, shows the organic coating in the case sample we obtained from the field. So we try to study how this coating structure affect drop cloud CCN activation and cloud properties. And we have some ongoing work, but what I really want to show now is we also ran a random forest model, try to identify, use all the data from, activate data from all 3-year measurements, try to predict CCN based on the measured aerosol and meteorology and other information. It shows that it's consistent with what we found in the lab analysis, showing that the variability in measured CCN is actually highly determined by the organic, the presence of organic component in the aerosol samples. So the most important factor was the size aerosol number between 100 nanometer to 200 nanometer, but followed by the organic mass. It's quite interesting. It's consistent with the lab measurements showing that the organics is not just contribute to the mean hygroscopicity. It could be just the dominant, the particle, the hygroscopicity of those particles. So we have the random forest model was give a pretty good, nice job predicting. And we are pretty confident that the message is actually interesting and correct. And we also use the similar random forest model to predict cloud drop number based on aerosol and all those measurements. The interesting finding is that with the trained model can do a very good prediction if we the validation data doesn't matter how big a fraction of the validation data sampled from the 3-year, it can give a pretty nice prediction as shown on the right-hand side. A small fraction or even half of the data used to train and half the data used to validate still shows pretty nice. However, if we apply the same model to individual cases, it shows a pretty bad job. Is we made a claim that it's showing that the ACI you characterize based on the large 3-year data is actually might not be useful to just characterize the aerosol cloud relationship for a single case. So it demonstrates some kind of stochasticity in the aerosol cloud interactions at very fine scale, spatial temporal scales. Yeah, so I'm almost used up my time just to leave the summary here, but I believe Xiangyu's talk it will be shorter. If after his talk, if you have hope to answer any questions you might have.